The topic of our third chapter is the contrast between different jurisdictions. Karen, do you feel the standards of due diligence programs are fairly consistent across all citizenship by investment programs? Or can you highlight some other that are more rigorous, potentially making their citizenships more valuable and better respected internationally?
I do see a lot of consistency over the last few years with the programs we work with directly. Of course, these are the programs that are already doing the right things in terms of engaging the top companies, such as ours on this panel, to do due diligence. Now, there are programs out there, and it's both on the citizenship by investment side and the residency by investment side, that don't do as much or perhaps do very little. The programs we work with tend to skew towards the opposite. They are adding more. They are not just meeting kind of minimum standards. They are trying to achieve best practices, and they're asking us, on a regular basis, how can we improve this? How can we improve our risk-based approach? Talk to us about evaluating applicants from this country and this country. What has changed? They are actively involved in the due diligence process and asking questions, and that's very encouraging. I would say the programs that I'm more concerned about are the programs that don't talk about the due diligence they're doing. They're not talking about it. I'm afraid they're doing very little to none. But the programs, for the most part, including the programs in the Caribbean, are talking about their due diligence. They are carrying out not only the minimum standards. And Heyrick referred earlier to the various levels of due diligence that are carried out by these programs, and involves not only engaging outside companies, third parties to do the due diligence, but also engaging with their regional and international law enforcement and intelligence partners and information sharing agreements to gather information. They also increasingly are mandating that the agents, the immigration agents and marketing agents who bring on these applicants at the first stage before they ever make an application to a program, they're now being mandated to carry out certain minimum know your customer due diligence, which is a great step. So the programs that we work with are doing all the right things. I wouldn't be able to point fingers and necessarily say this program isn't doing enough. The problem is transparency. The programs that aren't talking about what they're doing, I don't know that they're doing enough or all of that or none of what I just described.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. If I can briefly bring in Eddy, there's some countries that offer a fast-track, accelerated application process for a premium fee. Are these accelerated, fast-track programs just as stringent as the normal due diligence?
Well, if they're carrying out the due diligence process correctly, yes. And you can't speed, there's only so much you can do to speed up the due diligence process because, as Karen said, you're having to go in country, you're having to check all the documentation and verify it and double verify and cross-reference lots of different sources. So there's only so much time you can squeeze on producing a report. And I again just reiterating, when you read a report from the type of reports that we and others on here produce, it's like reading the life story of a person. You've got a biography, everything from when they were born to who they've mixed with, what their business interests are, and who their family members are. And to produce that takes time. So we can expedite reports, but we can only squeeze them so much, otherwise the quality suffers. So it's all down to really, how much information we're given to be able to verify, and then how much we can verify actually in country and through the other sources, the type of sources that the others have talked about on here.
And Heyrick, you worked in Iraq in the past during a time of fierce hostilities and all over the Middle East. You must have seen some pretty incredible stuff going on with people wanting to get out of places really quickly and move to another jurisdiction. How desperate, when people are desperate to escape a conflict and authoritarian regime, you must see all sorts of kickbacks being offered to people.
Well, I think what we've seen in this context, and we've touched on it already, Yuri, is that people falsify documentation. They may try and get documents falsely notarized. And this is the part that Karen was talking about. We have this rich tapestry of information that's provided to us that we can then cross-reference, which enables us to take a view and give advice to the units on the veracity of all of the information that's being presented across a pretty broad field. But you're right, Yuri, that there will be people all over the world who are incredibly keen to get out of the jurisdictions of the countries that they are within. I think what's interesting in the context of Ukraine as we look at it today is, a lot of visas or temporary visas are being granted for those who are refugees, and so they're probably not facing quite the same pressures that we may have seen out of places like Syria in the past.